All right, quick question. Do you think millennials actually have it harder than the rest of us did when, trying to grow up and trying to get to a situation where we can afford to try to retire? Do you think that they've got to have a tougher time? I don't think so, and here's why. But I also will touch on the reasons that it may appear more challenging for them. So first off, we've all been stuck with stagnant wages before. We've all been stuck with inflationary issues. I remember waiting in the car with my mom to get gas back in the 70s, when there was gas, shortages on and high prices for the times. I remember that when I was in high school, only the smart kids went to college. The rest of us got trade jobs or went in the service. I remember that, you could afford to buy a house, but back in the early 80s, interest rates for housing was up 10, 11, 12%. And people are complaining now because it's still above 6. When I bought my first house, it was at 7. So things haven't really been that much more difficult lately. It's just a matter of perspective, I think. Part of that perspective is that how hard the millennials and the Gen Xers think that they're actually, or Gen Zers think they're actually working. I can tell you in my personal experience, the folks that I work with that are under 50, most of them that are under 40, don't like to work overtime, don't like to come in early, don't like to stay over, don't like to come in on weekends when they're needed or possibly needed. And we have a great contract that says that our overtime is not mandatory, and I'm all for that. You have the right to live your life. But don't tell me you got financial struggles when you're leaving money on the table all the time because you'd rather be home or have a better family work and life balance. That's not how people get successful, and that's not how people get ahead. We get ahead because we're willing to go in work and work the hours. And the core group of people that work the hours at where I work are the folks that have been there 20 and 25 and 30 years, and we're worked in just about every hour they offer. Why? Because we know that's where our money's made. Yeah, we make a decent salary, but you can't complain about stagnant wages when they're offering you time and a half and double time during the week, and then complain about money. Okay, there's opportunities out there. Now, if you're in a job where they only work 40 hours a week and you're on salary and you're not making enough, then you need to find a better job, get more skills, or get a side hustle, a side gig. That's just the long and short of it. It's not because your life's any tougher. It's just that you're not willing to put in the extra effort. That's my gut feeling. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel about it. Now, does that mean that I'm right? Not necessarily. I'm just giving you my opinion. I work just about every hour that's offered and have for, forever since I got a good job. When you get a good job, you want to put forth the effort to make the money and to do well for the company and with the company. And I have. My wages have tripled since I got there back in 1996. Tripled, okay? Does that mean that I'm making exorbitant amounts of money? No, because once our company contract, once we get the tops, all you get is our yearly 2 or 3% raises. It's not outstanding money past that. We haven't had a real raise in 15 years. We've barely been keeping up with inflation. And the last 4 or 5 years with inflation going up 4, 5, 10, 4, 3%, we're not even keeping up. So the difference, I think, comes down to is one, when we had 2 working incomes, we didn't go out and buy 2 new cars thinking we both work, we can both have new cars. That's just not the way our generation was raised. We had 1 decent car that the mom, or for the most part, the mom drove and made sure the kids got where they were going. And Dad drove a junker back and forth to work until it broke down or he couldn't fix it. And then he went on and found another junker. And that's kind of the situation we've done in our house, is that when the one car is paid for, it's beyond its reasonable repairs, we upgrade the oldest or the newest car. It's sounding goofy, but I basically, the wife would give me her car and then we'd buy her a newer car. And I was all for that because I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to worry about her with the car breaking down, with the kids getting back and forth to school, etc. That's just the way our generation was raised, is that we took care of that. I stop and I fill up my wife's car with gas when we stop. Obviously, she's in Florida now most of the time, so when I'm here, I wash her car, I clean out the inside of her car, I take her car and fill it up with gas, and I make sure she doesn't have to worry about it. Guess what else I'm doing while I'm here? I'm cooking for her to get her ahead a little bit. I'm doing some grocery shopping so she doesn't have to, because that's what we do. You know, as a partner, you work and that's what you figure out. You find out what your strengths are, what their strengths are, and you work to your strength. Now, going back to the college situation, I understand why the kids are buried in college debt. And it's horrible because the prices have gone through the roof. College debt on average is, for the average millennial, is like $46,000, where back in our day, average college debt was, like $15,000. Not a year total, because colleges were a whole lot less expensive. And like I said, not everybody had to go to college to get a degree. I think a lot of people are brainwashed thinking you got to have a college degree to make life. That's not necessarily true, but you do have to be teachable. You do have to be able to learn a skill set that is valuable to somebody. And I think a lot of the younger generation get caught up in the fact that the social media people make it look easy, showing off only the cars and the houses and not the work and extra that was required. And most of them, you wonder, right? You've seen these videos where they go, oh, they rented the car and they did this and they just rented the house. It's an Airbnb, whatever. They don't actually own that. They didn't earn that with their programmer, with their social media accounts or whatever. That may be true. But the fact of the matter is, if you're willing to put in the work, there's a way to get rewarded with whatever skill set you have. If your skill set is social media, then use it to your advantage. But that doesn't mean you stake your whole life on it and get to a point where you don't have anything else because you're not making it in social media. Get a job, pay your bills, do social media on the side, and build up your following, your reputation, your skill set, your course, your materials that are of value to sell or that people want to buy, and then move forward. Until then, you don't need new cars. Until then, you don't need a new house. People try to move too fast. We didn't immediately get out of high school, go to a job, get married in 2 years, buy a house a year later, start having kids. It just wasn't that way. And back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, when our parents could work one job and afford all these things, yeah, it was great. But that doesn't mean they didn't struggle. They just did what had to be done at that time. If you want to get ahead today, you got to do what's required today. Okay? And that also means, don't tell me that you're wore out already by, the average millennial says they're wore out by 25. Where the rest of us, we don't feel like we're wore out or burned out until 42. Well, I'm 59 and a half, going on my 30th year at the company I'm at. Been working in the fields, detasseling, since I was 12, 13, 14. Worked in restaurants as a busboy dishwasher after that, and then went in the military, and then came back to work in machine shops, and then eventually into the company I'm at. I didn't jump into a great job. I had to work my way through the crappy ones to get to the good jobs. They're out there, but you got to pay your dues. None of this is going to come free fall to you, okay? And if you're worried about retirement, stop spending your money on dumb stuff and start putting some money away for yourself. You need to pay yourself first. Unless you've buried yourself in so much debt you can't, then get rid of the stuff that are costing you money. I talked about a video 6-8 weeks ago about things that eat your money, especially as you go into retirement. Well, they eat your money all the time, okay? So if you have items that are eating your money and you want better, get rid of the items that are eating your money. All right, hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.